Bruce. Thank you very much for being the juror for our reflection show. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
I live and work in Philadelphia. I'm a painter mostly as an artist. I teach painting at Drexel University here in Philadelphia. And I was pleased to be asked to jury a show at the Maryland Federation, where I have been in juried shows there before, so I was familiar with you. And I didn't know what the theme of the show was when they asked me to do the jury. They just asked me to jury a show. So it was a very interesting when I learned the theme and saw how many applications there were for it. So
yeah, we were very excited that we got so many applications. This is actually our first time doing this show, so we were very excited. I think about 600 people apply, or 600. We had 600 entries.
600 entries, 197 artists. Out of that, I selected 61 images by 60 different artists. So it was a long process of sifting and resifting and selecting and so on, but certainly not without merit. It really gave me a lot of more insight into kind of the nature of reflection. As a painting instructor, one of the assignments I give is it has to do with painting reflective. It's a still life assignment, but it has to do with just the phenomena and the concept of reflection and different kinds of surfaces. So it's a concept that I've worked with a lot. I've also worked with it in my work. So I was just interested in the varieties of the way artists have interpreted it, and seeing that there were some areas where there were multiple works that kind of fit into that, and then there were some others that were kind of different, standouts. So it was really kind of a broad selection of a very broad concept. I mean, reflection is a very, it can really get kind of metaphysical when you really start peeling away the layers of it, and there's many aspects to what reflection can be, and how creatively it can be illustrated or depicted, or whatever you do with it.
We were hoping for a good mix of both literal and sort of more emotional and internal reflections. And I think we got a good mix of those. Each artist's perspective tells a different story. So what stood out to you in the art that you selected for reflections?
Well, one of the things I was aware of right off, because I'm a painter. I had a undergraduate minor in photography, so I've had an interest in photography, and of course, mostly as an artist, I matured before the digital age. So a lot of considerations I have are as to mediums, and over half of the applicants were either photography or digital. So that in one way created I distinguished one area. And then there was a smaller area, but other areas that had to do with really painting. And there were beautiful results in in both categories, but just technically, I think there's a different approach to it. I think that photographers and digital artists are more, it's like you have to find the right image of reflection, or you have to wait for it, and it requires patience and skill, and you really have to know your equipment and so on. But it's more like you're taking a picture of an existing phenomena. You see a reflection in water on a lake, and the sun is just right, and you get the picture or something, or you kind of have to capture it at that point. And I think with painters, it's more about you really have to create that. Even if you're painting something that's reflective, I think you have to really understand how a reflection is constituted. Like why does it work? So you have to understand kind of value of color, value, intensity of light. And I think it's a different understanding of light, because in order to recreate light in your painting, you really have to understand what the nature of light is. And so that's, I think, one of the major things that I was aware of is that there are these different, just different ways of arriving at an image. And then the other criteria, of course, was just looking at the images, irregardless of the medium, and just looking at kind of what really kind of had a punch to it, that had kind of impact, that really stated something strongly about the theme. And looking at that, and in some cases, like there were a lot of photographs of reflections in architectural glass in buildings, which is very much part of the manufactured environment that we live in, and more because we have all these glass towers and so on. So a lot of work had to do with reflections in glass. So with a category like that, I would sort of look at all of the work that dealt with that, and again, then trying to find work that kind of was saying something more different, something more that others weren't saying, that kind of stood out for that. So yeah, that's kind of how my process went. And then I went from a group of about 200 to a group of about 100, sort of whittling it down and going through it over again and again, and then looking back and seeing things that were overlooked. And anyway, so I really got an eyeful. I really enjoyed it.
It must have been pretty difficult going from 600 to 60 pieces.
Yeah.
That sounds like quite the challenge.
Another thing is that a lot of another distinction that I became aware of is that a lot of there's reflection in the natural world, in water, and how that is that's really a big thing. And in painting, that has always been a big subject. I mean, just think of a sunset. I mean, it's over the bay or whatever. It's a common theme, is reflections in water. So most of the pictures of the natural world dealt in some way with water, and a lot of the ones of the manufactured world, a lot of them dealt with metal and glass. So it's these surfaces that well, we're dealing with reflection, we're dealing with reflected light, and truth is, most of the time, the light that we see is reflected. It's reflected off of something. I became aware of really being focused on reflection when I just walked down the street to go to the L stop. The sky, of course, is above me, lighting everything, but I don't pay a lot of attention to the sky. I'm watching where I'm going. And what we're really seeing is the light that's reflected off of surfaces, whether it's a sidewalk in front of us or buildings. It's like that's the light that enters our eye, is the light from the sun that bounces off of, bends off of things, bends back off of things, reflects or bends back and comes into our eye. And we orient ourselves through the world by understanding reflectivity. Like if there's ice on the sidewalk, it's highly reflective. So we have a lot of sensitivity in terms of reflection. So anyway, there's reflection on water in the natural world, and then of course again metallic in glass surfaces in the man-made environment that which are fascinating things. I mean, you get this kind of distortion, and there's an otherworldly quality to it, and I totally understand why it's a subject for painting, because it does have, or for artists, because it is fascinating.
What was the biggest challenge in selecting these artworks for you?
Any choice, when you have to choose things. I think the hardest thing always for me is, I really look for the positive qualities in things. And so any choice is difficult because you're eliminating things. You're not you're separating things. You're eliminating things. So there is this real kind of Saturn kind of aspect of you have to hold the cleaver at a certain point and sort of cut things off, and I think to me that's a hard part to do, because especially when you're being an artist, I know how it is to be juried out. I know the feelings, I know the sentiments that are involved. So that I think the hardest part was that, just really going into the final selection and probably ultimately choosing the winners. But choices have to be made, and you may lose out this time, but next time you may be in front. So it balances out over time.
Yeah, I was looking through all the submissions going, wow, I'm so glad this isn't my job to cut through these. There were a lot of good ones. And speaking of awards, let's talk about the awards now.
Okay, sure.
So I am going to pull up my screen. I think actually we first have your juror statement. So if you would like to read that.
As I mentioned before, there were 602 entries, 197 artists. The enthusiastic response to this call for entries attests to artists' attraction to reflection as a subject and source of inspiration. The amazing variety of work submitted exemplifies light reflection encountered in watery natural environments and in windows, architectural glass, and mirrors in the manufactured world. In these instances, the fascination with light reflection often gives way to inner reflection. The play of reflected light can create stunning distortions, visual ambiguities, and color displays, disrupt the reasonableness of our sight, and prompts an inquisitive response or revelation. My criteria for selecting images was to provide a comprehensive view of the theme reflection and to include as many unique interpretations as possible. The work that addressed the theme of reflection intentionally showed technical sophistication, conceptual strength, and demonstrated an exceptional vision that captured what others overlooked were chosen.
Let's move on to the awards. So the first honorable mention went to Catherine Murray for the piece Winter Sunrise Reflected.
Again, this is a really, first of all, I think it's really technically very, there's really a perfection to it. And it really does it really says reflection everywhere. It's like this mirrored image. There's something really serene. So not only does it really depict reflection, but I feel like there's a real mood, this wintry mood of a winter sunrise or sunset, not sure. It really does just speak of reflection. And even, the coloration, it seems like it's a black and white photograph, but then it seems like there's a warmth in it. So, I'm not really sure. Some of the technical things I wasn't really sure of, or some of the technical techniques that people had listed for especially photography and digital work. I don't really know the printing processes that are involved. But anyway, I thought it was just a very serene reflection.
The next piece is I'm Not a Number by Tim Stevens.
Yeah, I just thought this was more conceptual. I just thought it was a really strong idea and a strong image that kind of has more relevance to people, to a social kind of context. And just the play of transparency and reflection, floating space. I thought it was, and again, this was an instant. I don't know how set up something like this was, or an instant, or where it was, or was it an art installation, or I thought it was compelling, especially with the figure in the background. I think that really in red.
So let's move on to the next one. Reflection 3 by Philip B. Grove.
Yeah, I think this was a multimedia. It looks like there's photography, digital, different mediums involved. I think that kind of interested me. I just felt there was kind of a serenity, a kind of a spiritual quality to it. I didn't notice the faces in the tree, the face in the trees right away. So, and I think was kind of a subtlety to it. You kind of have to look into it. You have to kind of spend some time with it to get it, to see the reflections. But so I thought it was well done.
Okay, the next one is Doton Sagai, A Wedding Picture.
I just, there's kind of a sentimentality to it. There's reflection in the glass, in the landscape, and then there's this kind of sentimentality in the wedding picture. So it's kind of this reflecting on a past, or this idea of a lot of reflection has to do with memory. And I thought this, there were a number of pieces that had that aspect, but I thought this one was particularly strong. Again, it's black and white. It's kind of a very traditional photograph. It reminded me a lot of, there's a photographer, Frederick Summers, who was, I've always been, whose work I really liked. And it kind of suggested that kind of a sensibility.
The next one is the last honorable mention. It is Surreal Sunrise by Johnny Lee Brassfield.
There were a lot of sunrises and sunset pictures, naturally, because I think that's kind of typifies it. And I really thought out of them that this one was the most inventive and, really kind of startling in a way and inventive.
All right. So now we are on to the Juror's Choice Awards.
Mhm.
And the first one is Miami Prison by Robert Stein.
Well, again, here, reflections in glass, architectural glass. You know, it's I know technically to paint that is really a big challenge to get to distortion. You know, it's one thing to paint and draw something when it's realistic without it being distorted. But I thought the composition was strong. The reflection that it was just really well done. There were a lot of paintings and photographs that used architectural glass. So, this is one I felt was most effective.
So the next award is The Summer of L by Jeff Carpenter.
Just really inventive. It used this idea of reflection, of mirrors. I guess it's like a swimming pool and architecture. Again, there were a number of photographs that through double exposure or through reflectivity sort of captured this quality. But I was amazed that this painting took that theme on and really did it beautifully. I mean, I think the reflection in the water is just amazing, and the light and the strange rope with the knot in it that kind of holds everything in place at the top. Just really a beautiful work.
The next one is Elizabeth Hale, Reflection.
Just to be there at that moment. I don't know if she had to wait for that moment or she knew that place and went back to it again and again. And if she did luck upon it just immediately, then boy, she's a lucky photographer. But just again, there's this serenity and beautiful natural beauty to it. Again, there are a lot of paintings with water reflections in large bodies of water and in streams and ponds and whatever.
I would be very interested to know how long she had to wait for this as well.
It's patience and skill.
The next Juror's Choice Award is Tiana Litvak, Newsstream VI.
This is just a real standout. Just conceptually, these leaves are cut out of trees with newspaper headlines that a lot of them have to do with environmental impact, climate change, environmental issues, and then this just sort of floating in this stream. It's just kind of a brilliant idea. I think I'd never seen this done before, but and how the water, to get the sense of the depth of the water and the rocks and so on. So anyway, just really heartfelt, really.
I think the title just makes it so much better too. The Newsstream, that's so clever. And then our last Juror's Choice Award is Sienna Smith, Contemplation.
Another category that there were a lot of submissions in were the kind of theme of a figure in a mirror or a figure in a window, and I just really the painting is really technically really excellent. It's just the light, the color quality, just really everything about it was really excellent. Again, there's this just kind of a serene, very quiet kind of quality to it that kind of comes through the light and the color. So just really, really masterful painting.
That is all of our awards. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I just wanted to say my last statement in jurors in the juror statement, the last paragraph that I had was just to really express my gratitude to Wolf, to Maryland Federation for the Arts for giving me the opportunity to sort of introduce me to you and to your community. It's really kind of a vital, an extraordinary community of artists. And I really want to thank all of the artists for sharing their imagination and their inspiration with me, and their commitment, above all, their commitment to making art and to really opening people's eyes and really making the world a more interesting place. So thank you.
Thank you. We are really grateful that you took the time to jury for us, and we think you picked a wonderful show.
Hope everyone enjoys it, and thank you, Laura, for inviting me.
Well,
All right.
thank you. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.